Hello and welcome to Ambush Tempo, aka Gnar Nidalee. If you want a deck that can go wide, go tall, play tempo, counter spells, do everything other than draw cards, but that's okay. We don't need that to win. First, I should introduce myself. I'm Jade. That's not a stutter, that's my name on LOR as of right now. I am a 3x Masters player. I got to Masters twice in Standard, once in Eternal. My lowest peak rank in all seasons was top 100, and currently in this Standard season, I hit top 15 from Diamond 4 playing only Gnar Nidalee. I generally like to think of Gnar Nidalee as having 5 distinct game plans. The first being Nidalee Tempo, then Burst Wide, the Rico Rex or Overwhelm, Doubling Season, and Impact Flips. Nidalee Tempo is the general good game plan against the majority of decks. This plan requires you to stick an early Nidalee and then use the tempo that you gain off of continuously flipping your Nidalee to gain you a card advantage throughout the game using the Javelin Tosses and other transform creatures to clear the board, attack in, get your damage, and eventually nickel and dime your opponent out of the game. The next game plan is Burst Wide. Burst Wide is my favorite way to blow out opponents. This playstyle is built around using the combo of Aora Halunatus and Curious Changelings to create 2 burst speed 4/2 blockers or attackers, which can create disgusting scenarios where it either blows out an attack so badly for 2 cards, often granting you more tempo and card advantage, or creates a 16 power open attack on turn 4. I don't know if I have to explain much more. That's crazy, especially from something that is so ambiguous. The tempo that you can gain through this playstyle allows you to take decks that are good at playing to the boards, like aggro decks, to blow them out, usually allowing you to neutralize so many of their cards that you are essentially winning the game off of this. After this play, all you have to do is try and play to the board the best you can, and usually you'll win. The next game plan is Overwhelm, aka the Rico Rex, a staple for ending the game in 1 turn. The base of this strategy revolves around Towering Parophant, and either with Curious Changelings, Valley of Imitations, as well as Prowls and the occasional Nidalee to create big Overwhelm units to punch through small blockers and push lethal through anything that is trying to just flood the board with these small, insignificant creatures. Examples of this would be the many Janna decks, Heimer Jace, that sort of thing. We're looking to set up this game plan against decks that we know we'll be able to go a little bit later, not so later, where they can truly set up like any volley deck, but late enough where we can reasonably flip a Towering Parophant. The next game plan is Doubling Season. This is a greedier late game plan that revolves around Big Game Tycoon and the absurd numbers you can get with it. It doesn't really matter what you flip as long as you flip something. But the ideal way to set up this plan is with Valley of Imitations, as once you play the Big Game Tycoon, it'll immediately become a 2024. If you have any Towering Parophants, Avenging Vestias, Aora Halunatus, or either of your champions ready to flip into a huge Overwhelm unit, it usually is just going to win you the game. Either that, or you're just making a huge 12-8 Overwhelm quick attacking Nidalee, or any other Overwhelm unit that will just end the game for you. It doesn't really matter what you do. As long as you keep on flipping, you'll just end the game. This game plan is next to guaranteed to win you the game if you are able to pull it off correctly. Once you're able to continue doubling and doubling, there is no sense of damage removal that can get rid of your creatures. Nothing will be able to punch through. You're basically invincible. The last game plan is Impact Flips. Impact Flips revolves around Chief Nakatok, consistently healing and pumping your flipped units and granting them stacking impact. With units that can transform multiple times like Nidalee, Gnar, or Valley of Imitation, or just transform twice like Curious Changelings, you'll have a hard to deal with board that is constantly granting itself impact over and over will eventually burn you out while basically abyssing you every time that it has the attack token. You realistically need 2 cards to get this working. You need Chief Nakutak and one of the 8 repeatedly transforming units or landmarks. It is a solid strategy overall, cannot quite get you there if that's your sole game plan, but it is something that you should keep in mind as a tempo plan that you can use that isn't just flipping Nidalee over and over again. Now that we've gone over the game plans, I want to talk about something. That is to adapt. It is crucial as the Gnar Nidalee player because you have so much hidden information. You are a tempo toolbox deck that should be willing to adapt and use these game plans differently at all times. If something gets removed, switch on the dime. You've got to be able to react to these things quickly, figure out a new game plan, and find out how you are going to win the game from there, even if one of your core pieces gets removed. Some small tips. There's a play that I like to use called Fading the Spear. Fading the Spear is when you have a board that is big enough to essentially wipe the board against any opponent while having a flipped Nidalee. It'll give you the Javelin Toss. And often, what your opponents will do is not play anything into it if they don't have a board, assuming that you'll just take the 4 burn damage and move on. Often what I like to do is play a couple of units or landmarks or something, use my mana kind of efficiently, and if they just keep on passing back, I'll just let it fade. Just leave it go. The 4 damage is nice. Don't need it to win with this deck. We're able to go so far over the top if we can just gain that tempo. Absolutely amazing. It is great to use this play against certain decks, namely Janna decks, Samira decks, Jaceheimer to an extent. You're able to use this against decks that you don't mind them having more mana, but you really want the board to be in your favor. Some more small tips. Abuse spell mana, often against PNZ or Samira decks. You can bank spell mana until turn 3, so you're able to get down your brushes while being able to flip them instantly. You can abuse the fact that you are a creature deck that can very, very, very well use your spell mana. A little matchup tip against Jaceheimer, hard mulligan for Avenging Vastaya. You cannot win against a Scrap Traption on 3, a 6/6 on 3. It's unwinnable. Some other small things. Bristlehogs can buff itself with the Valley of Intimidation. It's small, but the Valley of Imitation will retain that buff, and it can be useful for Overwhelm or doubling game plans. You should often play like the bush is Avenging Vastaya, as many decks will wait longer to use more resources to double spell, allowing you to get more value out of the units or landmarks it's quote-unquote protecting. If you have the option to flip a brush while having a Prowl in hand and a Chief Nakutak on the board, and you are able to use the Prowl and flip the creature, always try to Prowl first, as if they are using damage-based removal, you can often catch them off guard with the abundance of health that you are gaining from it. The last thing is that transform triggers will always go from left to right, so you can set up your transform triggers to gain more stats if needed. You can rearrange the way that your units are set up on the board by using the attack token. If you drag something onto the board and drag it off, it will go to the end of the board, so you are able to set up a line of how you want your triggers to happen. Always look from left to right. How I would recommend is you look for Chief Nakutaks first, then big game tycoons, and then Curious Changelings, always all the way to the right, as Curious Changelings will transform into exact copies of your transformed units. So if you have transform units, how it will check is it will transform, Chief Nakutak will see it, it will grant it +1/+1 in impact, then Big Game Tycoon will see it, it will double all its stats, and then Curious Changelings will see it. So you get all of the double stats and +1/+1. It will transform into that. It will get the Chief Nakutak and Big Game Tycoon, so you can essentially continuously double or quadruple your stats. Another small thing that has lost me games a couple of times, if you have a Valley of Imitation and a Curious Changeling on the board, and you play if you play a non-transforming creature, right then, it will trigger the Valley of Imitations, the Valley of Imitation will transform into that, and so will the Curious Changelings. When that happens, by the end of the turn, they will both become Valley of Imitations. I don't know why. I think it's interesting, but at the same time, it can be useful if you want to go for a thumbnail, like how I did in this video. But watch out with that. I want to warn people. And my overall thoughts. This is the conclusion of this guide, I guess. I don't know if you can call this a guide. I'm gonna call it a guide. I personally love the deck. It is very skill expressive. It allows you to take the reins and outplay your opponents in ways they might not even consider. If you like getting your wins through tooth and nail, playing with hidden information, and monstrously huge numbers, this deck is perfect. Alright, that's it. I'm Jade. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out, as this is the first video I'll be uploading to this YouTube channel. I really hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment if you think there's anything I could do better. Other than that, have a good day or night. Bye.